This is the Leo Climaco Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Leo Climaco Podcast. I have a very special guest for you today. He's an entrepreneur. He's a remote house flipper. He's a commercial real estate investor. Been in the game for almost 20 years. Brian Adamson. Thank you so much for being in the podcast, bro.
Leo, that was an amazing introduction, man.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you having me, man.
No problem.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming down from Orlando to spend some time with us.
For sure. It's my pleasure, bro.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, where'd you grow up?
Yeah. So I'm a guy, I like to say that I help people live life by design rather than by default. Right?
I like that.
I think many people, based on the social construct.
Like,
and where
stop
they come
winging
from,
it.
Right? Like, we default into what we think we have to do or what society tells us we got to do.
Right.
As opposed to actually just take the time to think about and have vision for what we want to do in our lives. And so I help people through a myriad of different ways, whether it be through real estate. I help coaches and consultants scale their coaching and consulting businesses to 6 and 7 figures.
That's awesome.
Help people invest in commercial multifamily as well as residential. And but yeah, it all started. I grew up in Detroit, on the west side of Detroit.
Okay.
800 square foot bungalow.
Go Lions.
Right. Matter of fact, look very similar to Queens, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very similar.
They are very similar.
They are very similar.
They are.
Bro. And yeah, I grew up in an 800 square foot bungalow. My dad was a firefighter for 30 years. My mom's a cashier for 25 years at a grocery store. So really
Hardworking people.
Blue collar,
Yes.
hardworking people, but no entrepreneurs, no real
Right.
wealth in the family. And so I had, what you tune into, you turn into.
For sure.
The people around me that I saw that had the aspirational lifestyle were the people in the streets hustling. And so, I tried that. And as a late teen, I found myself looking at a 4 to 10 year felony my senior year in high school.
Wow.
I had a full ride academic scholarship to college, got up there and was still confused about my freedom and flunked out, lost that. And then from there, I met my now wife, then girlfriend, got her pregnant. Right. So this let me just go a step back for a second. Right. So this transition from 17 to 18 years old was wild for me. Right.
A crazy year.
Oh, my God. And it was a really dark place, though, in all honesty. And
I can imagine.
during that same time, I found Christ and didn't fully understand what that meant, but I believe hell was real, and I was headed there at that point in my life if I didn't make some changes. And by his grace, I got on the other side of that case, fully expunged from my record, got rematriculated back into college where I graduated summa cum laude, and me and my wife been together a couple decades, been married 17 years.
That's amazing.
Got a beautiful and brilliant 22, soon to be 22-year-old daughter. So
That's amazing. Congratulations.
yeah, appreciate that.
They do say that hustlers are some of the best entrepreneurs, right? They just are selling the wrong thing.
100%. 100%.
Because those guys are really smart.
Yeah.
And they're really slick. And the way that they need to have the extra attention, the extra care within what they're doing, it can be a very useful skill.
Absolutely.
If you transfer it to the right product.
Absolutely.
Right?
I like to always say that God is no respecter of person. He give everybody gifts.
Yes.
It's up to us to whether or not we use it to give him glory or whether we pervert the gift in the wrong environment. So like for me, my gift is influence, but in the streets it was manipulation. You see how it's the same gift, but it's just perverted depending on where you apply it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How one little flip of a switch can go from positive to negative.
Absolutely, bro.
Wow. How did you get into real estate, and why did it appeal to you?
Yeah. So when I got back into college, the second go round, I had a different mindset when I was up there, and I was looking for any and everything that could put me and my family in a better position. And one of my guys, he was 20 years my senior, he was flipping houses.
Okay.
I didn't understand what any of that meant, but I'm in my junior year in college, and I'm like, I got to figure something out other than just working when I get out of here. And so,
were you still in Detroit?
At this time, I was in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, about 2 hours away from Detroit. Okay. I moved the whole family up there, my daughter-in-law, my wife. So me and my wife were going to school up there, and our daughter was up there with us.
Got it.
And he was like, look, stated income loans at all-time high back then, where for those that's watching that don't understand what that means that literally you could fill out an application at the bank, state how much money you made with no proof of docs, and they would give you a loan. This was one of the biggest reasons why we had a market contraction.
This was 07?
This was 06, 07.
06, 07.
Yeah. And so my buddy was like, my buyers, they qualify on paper, but they don't have a down payment to cover for the mortgage.
Right.
So I would gift them the down payment using my refund checks in college because I didn't need them.
That's so smart.
And then he would give me a return on my investment.
Okay.
And it didn't take long before I figured out, hold on, wait a minute. They buying houses with no job? I think I could do that too. And so I started buying rental properties with stated income loans my senior year in college. And then the market contracted. I had no wherewithal. I had no education. I was just being opportunistic.
Yep.
And
08 came.
08 came, right. The good news for me, though, I wasn't jaded like everybody.
Right.
I'm like, this $148,000 house, $28,000 now. I'm going to go do more of these.
Right.
Right? So I'm like, forget them 3 bad mortgages, the foreclosures, the short set, whatever. Like, I'm about to go do a lot more of this. So I was 24, 25 years old. I had bought 20 rental properties cash during that time.
Wow.
Because I was in the market. Detroit was so unique. I could get a house for $2,500 and put a couple grand into it and rent it out for $750 a month. You can't miss with those numbers.
Crazy.
Problem though is I only got good in a bad market. So when the market started to shift, I didn't know how to invest in a new market, which led me to finally go get mentorship.
Got it. It's almost like you came in at the perfect timing for you to learn what you had to learn to capitalize when it dropped.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
talk about being at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
That's awesome. What was your childhood like, and how did that shape you to be the man that you are today?
My childhood was unique, particularly because I was the baby of the family. So I got a brother that's 12 years older. I got a sister that's 7 years older.
Okay.
So I spent most of the time at the house as if I was the only child. In addition to that, I would say I was the black sheep of the family. So although, my parents set a great example of what work ethic looked like, and all those sorts of things, I can say this emphatically, at 12, I knew I was going to be a money guy.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, why? Tell me why. What gave you that confidence?
So now, where I sit with my relationship with God, I will call it the Holy Spirit. Then I will call it intuition.
Got it.
Right? I knew that I respected what my parents did, so much so that I always had a job, even at 14, working at the Boys and Girls Club. 12 years old, I was sweeping up here in the barbershop.
Yep.
So I always knew work ethic, but I also knew that I was going to have an abundance of money.
Right.
And I always had a knack for learning new things quickly that made money. And I was able to pick it up and apply it. One of my greatest gifts is being an executor. And so, although my parents had limitations of thought, 100%. Some people are ideators, some people are executors. I like to consider myself both, but I'm definitely a better executor than ideator. And I saw what my parents had did, and I saw that they kind of settled to some degree in their life. And I respect it, though, right? They went as far as what they wanted, where they wanted to go. But for me, I always knew that it was no ceiling. I just always believed that. It was something that was burning in me that always let me know that I was greater than my circumstances.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like a knowing that, like, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trading time for money.
Yes, 1,000%.
Right? I'm going to go
1,000%.
Create something that's going to provide me the wealth that I need to live.
You know what's crazy that you say that? I always use my jobs as leverage.
A means to an end.
Bro, like I just got chills from now. I hope somebody just caught what I just said.
Yes.
Like,
That's
most people
powerful.
use their side hustle as leverage.
Correct.
I use my job as leverage.
Yes.
And if you can look at your job as that, for that thing to be your first business partner that could fund all the rest of the things, then there's purpose in working the job.
Yes.
If you don't get that revelation while you're there, then you probably need to go find something else to do as fast as possible.
I wish I had that dropping bombs button. Because that was fire. And I completely understand, because I use my main business to fund all my other.
You get it 1,000%.
Yes.
1,000%.
Yes.
Yeah. So my childhood, I wanted for very little. My parents were great at provision, but I just always wanted more. Like, I always had an infatuation for having my own money, for doing my own thing. I mean, when I was 18, I bought my mom a mink coat. Because that's something she always wanted her.
Very
right?
nice.
So, like,
I
just I was a guy that had a tab at the clothing store at 15, 16, buying $800 leather jackets. Like, I just always liked what I liked. And I did whatever I had to do in pursuit of getting it. And some things, to your point, although repurposed in a new environment, that same work ethic from 30 years ago is still there.
For sure. That's the foundation, right?
100%.
That's where you catapult yourself from.
100%.
You touched on getting a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Who are your mentors and who do you look up to?
So my first mentor was a guy named Armando, who
I know exactly who that is.
yeah. So thank God back because I wasn't on social media. Like I got on social media begrudgingly. I was one of those
'Cause
guys.
you were
Like I
forced
tried
to.
blank space, forgot my login 15 times. It was like this is stupid. I'm not doing this anymore, right? So I'm like I'm that guy. But yeah, I mean, an infomercial found me late one night when I was trying. Because what happened was the portfolio of 20 properties that I bought, I got to a point where I got cash strapped. And because I didn't have the education, I didn't understand mechanical systems, electrical systems,
Right.
roofing systems. I didn't understand all this when I was buying these properties. So we were coming in doing what we thought was requisite to rent them out to people,
Got it.
as opposed to doing proper due diligence and finding out what's going on with the main arteries of the properties.
Right.
So it was a cash call, probably between 13, 15 of those properties, about 150 grand that I didn't have. Neither did I have the ability to raise capital or even knew that existed. So I had to sell off 90% of that portfolio in the down market
Wow.
because I refused to be a slumlord and I didn't have the liquidity.
Got you.
And so now I'm at work, and it's the first time where I feel stuck because I really don't have a lot going on outside of work. So now I'm starting to feel the walls closing in. Although I'm progressing in my corporate context, I just still knew that wasn't the ultimate goal for me.
Right.
They couldn't have given me enough money to stay
You were
there.
feeling the pressure.
100%. And so I'm like, I got to figure something out. And thank God, late one night, and it's funny that that strategically they run that late at night for this very
Yes.
reason, right? Late one night, here
They
I am.
know.
They know.
They
Right?
know.
2 o'clock in the morning, sitting there on the couch drinking,
Yes.
press, trying to figure out life. And yeah, infomercial came up, man. I went to the free thing, and I was so naive when I went that I'm like, oh my God, this thing is free.
What year was this?
This was 2015.
Okay.
So, and I never forget, at work, so I was the manager in a plastics company, operations manager. And one of our biggest customers was Tropicana, Dr. Pepper and Pepsi and all these guys.
Makes sense.
And so, long story short, there was a $400,000 claim with our customer that day that I was in charge of figuring out.
Okay.
And I never forget that free thing was that day. And I remember going to my boss, Tom, and I was like, Tom, I got about halfway through the issue. This is what I figured out. I'm going to have to tackle the rest tomorrow. I got something pressing that I got to go to. He looked at me like I had 4 heads, Leo. Like, what are you talking about?
This is your job.
This is my job, right? I say this to everybody because there is going to be that defining moment in your life that seems so juxtaposed whatever you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
That you're going to have to make the tough decision.
Against conventional wisdom.
Against conventional wisdom.
Yep.
And I went to the free thing, and I was like, what is this? Literally, like, what? I'm like, where are these people? Where they been at my whole life, right? There's probably 1,500, 2,000 people there,
Wow.
and they're showing how you can do these deals and doing with no money. And I was like, this is crazy. So I spent the 1,500 to go to the 3-day thing, and then after that, at the 3-day thing, the second day at lunch, they like, hey, it's 40 grand to join the program, and people was getting up in droves, Leo.
Really?
And I'm thinking, these people crazy. Like I've been waiting for this my whole life. I've been out here for 8 years on my own. Made every mistake known to man. Like I'm ready to do it the right way with the right people. Yeah. And so, man, I maxed out my card. I got my wife a card, maxed hers out, pushed everything to the center of the table.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. And there was an upsell around the corner that I didn't know about because I'd never been to a seminar.
Right.
So I'm literally taking every offer. Like, right?
Sounds great.
It sounds great. And but no, although it put us in a very tight situation financially, I learned skill that has forever changed my life.
Right.
I learned how to stop being a landlord and a hustler and be a business owner. Learned asset protection. I learned capital raising techniques. I learned, how to structure deals properly. And with that skill, man, I've never looked back since.
What gave you the discipline or even the drive to follow through the course? Because most people go to seminars.
Yeah.
They buy these courses and they don't do shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. So I'm one that believes that when people pay, they pay attention. And I think the more that you pay, the more you pay attention.
For sure.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen people drop tens of thousands, even $100,000 and still don't do anything.
Yeah.
There's a special place for those people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't articulate what that is, but there's something off about that.
They're charitable people. They give away free money.
Exactly. To a charity of their choice.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
What I'm saying? So, no, but honestly, for me, and I said this the other night, my wife bet on me, bro, at every season of my life, going all the way back to when she met me and my freedom was at stake and got her pregnant, right? And it's something about that that's important to me to keep my word. My dad told me when I was 5 or 6, he said, if you look a man in his eye, you shake his hand firm, and you keep your word, you be doing all right in life. At 5 or 6, that makes no sense to me.
Right.
At 40 today, and to see the type of society we live in where nobody keeps their word, like if you want to be successful in life right now, all you have to do is just keep your word.
Yes.
You will become a part of the 1%.
Be impeccable with your word.
Impeccable with your word, bro.
Yes.
And for me, one, I don't want to let myself down, but secondly, I certainly wanted my wife to know if I'm going to go out, it's going to be swinging. It ain't going to be because I put us in this financial disparity temporarily,
right,
and then just fumble the rock. Like, I'm just not that guy.
Where do you think that drive, that level of understanding of dedication comes from?
God, 100%. One of my greatest gifts from him is wisdom and discernment, and this unwillingness to quit. Like, people, I think a lot of time at seminars in particular, they get up and they talk about their why. Yeah. And most people, as you go around the room, the whys start to sound the same.
Right.
It's my mom. It's to take care of my family.
Right,
it's
my kids, whatever.
Right,
yeah.
right. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Yeah. But I also think we got to get real serious about what our why is, because in those moments, you will quit if your why isn't real to you.
Right.
And what I've discovered is my why is me. Now, my wife and my daughter are the direct byproduct beneficiaries of me pursuing my why, but my why is me. What do I mean? I mean that because I got this thing in me that won't turn off. Because God wired me as an executor, if I'm not accomplishing things, I'm depressed.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
So that unrest that's inside of me disallows me to settle in life where other people do.
And I think you also want to prove to yourself
100%.
And be the best version of yourself.
100%.
Right?
100%.
I can tell.
Yeah.
You have a very, very high vibrational frequency.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. I was going to ask you, but we just answered it. What role does God play in your life? If you want to go a little bit deeper in that.
Yeah, he's paramount. I'm still learning. It's a lifelong journey, of course. But and everybody lands different on this, right? But I'm just clear on the fact that I have a creator. And my best chance at life is probably to yield to the plan of the one who created me for his purpose. And the older that I get, I'm tired of do-overs. I've had seasons where I thought it was the money and I was rich and miserable.
Right.
And so I'm like, it's not it. And you find all these voids. And the truth is that everything else is counterfeit. The only true void filler is God. And so now it's about me surrendering my high aspirations of what exactly I want to do and pursue those things, but being open-handed and open-minded to the fact that he may tap me on the shoulder and tell me, I want you to do this instead, and being okay with that.
Right.
I at this point, I really have figured out that I'm tired of do-overs. I really am. And I'd rather just do it his way. And, Jeremiah 29:11 says that he has plans to prosper us and not harm us, plans to give us a hope in the future. If I really believe that, then I need to trust his plan, contrary to what I may see, think, or feel.
Right. What was your first moment like when you surrendered to that faith, to that belief, knowing that God has your back and that you can let go of that throttle, per se, and allow him to move through you? What was that like for you?
That was, the start of that was January 2019 when I stopped drinking. I think up until then, although I got saved at 18, I had been a lukewarm Christian. I was living a double life. I would pray and I would party and I would pray and I would party. right. You know what I'm saying? But particularly because I just didn't find my purpose yet. Right. So what happens is when we're not operating in our purpose, and we're unfulfilled, then we look for all these other external things to try to fill us up, right?
Yes.
And that's what I was doing for all those years, thinking it was God and this, instead of saying, no, it's just God, right? And when I stopped drinking, it was my first act of obedience, in my opinion, to really surrender and show him that I trusted him. Because I really didn't think that I could enjoy life without drinking, to be honest with you. It became a part of everything recreational that I did, right? We go to a birthday party,
right?
Go to a basketball game. We go to, right, just the weekend, like whatever.
I can share. I was like that with weed for a very long time.
Okay.
Like I needed to smoke to enjoy life.
So we thought,
yes,
right?
100%.
And it's unbelievable, man, that the biggest revelation that I got is when I finally surrendered. And I literally, January 6, 2019, I went cold turkey and have not had a drink since.
That's amazing.
After 17 years of getting it in.
Wow.
You know, and my life has been more fruitful than it's ever been. And I think that act of obedience was the first time where I really trusted him. And then he revealed more of himself to me in a different way after that.
That's beautiful. It really is.
Appreciate that, bro.
Going back to business for a second, what would you say were the differences in running a business back in 08, 09 to today? I think basically what I'm asking you is how important and powerful is social media? Right? Because it must have been a contrast, a difference.
It's unbelievably different.
Because the iPhone came out 07.
Yeah.
So 08, 09, no apps, no nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I was still BlackBerry back then.
Yes.
Because I was the guy that didn't want to convert to a full touchscreen, right? You know what I mean?
I want my keyboard.
I want my keyboard, man. I need my keyboard. First of all, I can't really say what I was doing back then was a business. And don't get me wrong, I bought 20 rental properties.
Right.
But it was just me being opportunistic, you know.
Trying things out,
learning, title companies. And with some common sense, you could accomplish quite a bit in life. You know what I mean? Whether or not you do it right and sustainably is a whole different thing. But with some common sense, you can figure some stuff out. And so I was kind of operating on sheer just will and drive back then, where it wasn't a lot of strategy per se, particularly, which is why I started having problems with that portfolio, is because I bought it out of opportunity and not strategy.
Right.
Whereas now, everything I do is strategic.
There was no plan behind it,
No
right?
plan behind it, other than let's make some money. And this is a legitimate way of doing it that keeps my freedom and my safety, so let's try this.
Right.
Whereas now, everything is strategic. The asset class that I buy is strategic. The coming down to shoot the podcast today was strategic. Right. Everything
Content.
that 100%.
Yep.
And multiple ones thereafter. Because here's what I figured out from being around the rich and wealthy. Nothing they do is linear in terms of a one-to-one transaction. The rich and the wealthy are able to think about it. God gave us all the same 24 hours.
Yep.
How is it that some people are making billions of dollars and other ones are making $48 an hour?
Yeah.
Well, it's because of how they leverage in their time.
For sure.
So every single move that I make has to serve multiple purposes. I cannot do anything that gives me a 1-for-1. That's, to me, I got to stay in the house. That's not a good enough return on my time for me to make the move. So
it's a great way to see life,
bro. I'm telling you, even places I go when invited.
Yes.
I got to know who's there. Am I gonna get fed spiritually, emotionally, strategically? Am I gonna be able to feed somebody while I'm there as well, right? Because I get fed from feeding. I got to know all those things before I just sign up to go somewhere, bro. That's so important to me.
Let's get into the nitty gritty. All right. I want you to break down a deal.
Okay.
So let's start with what is OPM, and how can someone leverage OPM to make a purchase or to start their real estate journey, per se.
So the way in which I talk about OPM is other people's money.
Right.
Okay. Now, everybody is starting to use OPM a little more loosely.
Yes.
The credit guys are saying OPM because it's the bank's money. Right. But OPM is other people's money.
Right.
Okay. Private investors, folks that you go talk to and raise capital from, is the way in which I identify OPM. At the very same time, yes, there are institutions and private institutions that can give you leverage, called asset-based lenders, hard money lenders, traditional banks, credit cards. But OPM in my context is other people's money.
Right.
Yeah. So to further answer that question, what we do inside of our program specifically, okay, about 80 to 90% of our deals we structure this way. We'll use the bank money for, say, 75%, okay? So let's say that you have a deal that's your purchase price and your rehab is $50K a piece.
Okay.
So your total cost is $100,000. The bank says we're going to give you 75% of total cost. So they give you $75,000. Then you will go and raise the other $25,000 plus with other carrying costs that you have.
Got it. That's where the OPM
That's
comes
where
in.
the OPM comes in.
Got
So
it.
we call them gap funders because literally from
Yes.
75 to 100, you have a
filling
gap,
the gap.
and then you're filling in the gap with that funder.
Were you an OPM investor when you first started by giving that $7,000 to fill in that gap, right?
Man, I was. Yeah. You know, you doing good. Leo. No, I was a de facto private lender and had no idea. That's,
Right.
that's literally how I started in
Yeah.
the business. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
How important is credit?
Extremely. Now, I bought deals with 500 credit. I've also bought deals with 750, closer to 800 credit. It's better to buy them with 750 to 800 credit, right?
You spend less money.
You definitely spend less money, you know. And the truth is, when I lost when the properties I bought in 2006 and 7, at the height of the market, when the market contracted, I was upside down, so I had to do foreclosures and things of that nature on those 2 or 3 properties. So my credit was impacted by that. But at the same time, I was liquid at the time from all the lending I was doing, so I ended up buying the 20 properties cash back then.
Got it.
Yeah. So I say that to say there's always a way to get started in business regardless of credit profile, but the more credit worthiness that you have gives you more latitude and ability to go out and pursue other types of deals that you couldn't have otherwise taken down if it was an all-cash scenario.
If you have a bad credit, a shitty credit, and the bank won't touch you, what do you do?
A couple different things. One, you can go to an asset-based lender, and let's just say that your credit is even so trash that they won't touch you. You can take a partner, right? We call them credit partners, and add them to your operating agreement. Okay, for those of y'all that don't know, when you start an LLC, you should have articles of incorporation, an operating agreement, and an EIN number. Those are the 3 components. So per transaction, you can modify this operating agreement to add other people on to make them a part of your business in a low capacity for that transaction.
Right.
So you can leverage someone else's credit profile by bringing them in on that transaction to get the deal closed.
Got it. And they get a cut, basically.
And you should, well, let's hope.
Let's hope, right? They get a cut.
Yeah.
What positions are you looking to hire for as soon as your real estate business starts taking off? Who are you placing around you to help you grow?
That's a really good question. I think the most critical initially, especially if you're going fix and flip or cash flow. Okay. Anything that has a rehab component to it.
Okay.
Your most important hire is a project manager. See, so we invest remotely, but remotely doesn't always mean 800 miles away, although I practice it that way.
Right.
It really means having infrastructure, even in your backyard, that can free you up to where you focus on raising more capital, underwriting more deals. Because those are the 2 highest and best functions as an investor. And you could build a multiple 6-figure, even 7-figure business with 10 to 12 hours a week if you do it that way. So that project manager becomes you in the market every day. So they're replicating your efforts. They're dealing with the contractors. They're dealing with the draws. They're dealing with the inspections.
It's freeing you up.
It's freeing you up.
Yeah.
So the best thing that we can do as investors is, one, become proficient and an expert. Once we have that expert knowledge, then download and deploy that into a project manager, and then hold them accountable to go do all the day-to-day activity that you shouldn't otherwise be involved in if you want to grow and scale your business.
That's great. What are you paying this person?
It depends.
Are you giving them a cut, a salary? How's that work?
Yeah, it really depends. I've done it a multitude of ways. So I would say it depends on the size of the projects that they're managing. Oftentimes, if it's, say, a fix and flip resi, you probably could pay them 10%. So if you got a $60,000 rehab, you pay them $6,000. Right. If it's a commercial deal, you're probably gonna pay them somewhere around 5%, 5 to 8%, just depending on the size of the project as well. At one point, my project manager, she was managing 4 or 5 projects for me, commercial multifamily. So we just worked out like essentially a salary at that point because
Right.
it just made more sense, because she was doing so much across the board. So yeah, it's a multitude of ways you can attack it, but I think that they're requisite in any real estate format that to be successful.
How big is your team?
We've got 3 different crews of contractors right now.
Wow.
I'm sorry?
I said, wow.
Yeah. We got 3 different sets of contractors. We've got property management. We have, I'm down to 1 project manager. And I allow her the freedom to hire other people if she needs to. And then a couple realtors, couple title companies. I try to keep at least 2 of everything.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, it's quite a big team.
Yeah, it is. It is. But
Yeah.
the ironic thing is that now I'm putting 8 to 10 hours a month into the business.
That's amazing.
With over 100 units.
Wow.
It's a lot of people shy away from investing remotely because they think proximity is protection. But the proximity doesn't protect you. The process protects you.
Right.
You could have a property 8 blocks away from you, and if you don't have the right processes in place and you get a contractor 20, 30, 50% down, and you don't know that they buy prostitutes on the weekend and got a gambling problem, like they're still not answering your phone and they ran off with your 30,000.
Right.
It's just that unlike me, who's 800 miles away, you get to drive by this every day as you go home,
cry about it,
hoping and crying, thinking that this guy's still gonna answer the phone, and it's not. So it's not the proximity that protects you; it's the process that protects you.
What would you say is the biggest difference between a commercial property and a residential property?
How you increase value easily. So there is a sales comparison approach in commercial multifamily as there is in residential. That just means that you're looking at sold comps, right? But in commercial multifamily, anything 5 units or more, you're able to increase rents, and depending on what the cap rate is in that area, your net operating income divided by the cap rate in that area would then tell you what the value of that property is.
Right.
So if I were to increase my rents, $50 a door on like a 20 unit, I don't know what that math is right now, but the bottom line is by adding in that additional, call it $12,000 a year, divide that by a 7 cap, that's probably over $100,000 of value that I just added by adding $50 a door to that, right? So
that's commercial.
That's commercial,
right?
In residential, 1 to 4 units, if you added $50 to the rent, you just collected $50 more to the rent. You didn't increase the value any, because in residential, it's based off of the sold comps that are comparable to the property.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very different in that way.
Wow. I feel like after COVID, New York, for example, they've been turning a lot of commercial office spaces into homes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I think it's smart.
Yeah.
I think for a minute there, commercial office, they had no idea what they were going to do. And this trend started, and I can't remember exactly what marketplace, but there were a couple pockets in the country that even before COVID were already getting out ahead of this office kind of transformation.
Right.
And so, thank God that the people in New York were able to adapt that, because think about it. I mean, office is a big component.
It's huge.
It's huge, right?
Yeah.
In New York's market.
Every other building.
Absolutely. And, them being able to do that along with doing some co-ops and things of that nature, getting very strategic, it's a big draw. It's a big draw. And I also think up until COVID, when a lot of people started getting out of New York, that there was such a demand and a housing shortage that was a unique, I think even if COVID didn't happen, that still would have made sense as a new strategy,
right?
Just to give people a different look for affordability and housing.
More units available.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people fail in real estate?
Not having the right information. I think the most dangerous people are those that got their own money, because they think that the money is the most powerful tool, but the knowledge is the most powerful tool. Nobody in this business has a money problem, only a knowledge problem. And scripture says that a fool and their money shall soon depart. And so, it's important that we go out and educate ourselves in anything that we do and understand that whatever we did to produce the money that we have, we got proficient at something.
Yeah.
So let's not mistake in the fact that just because we got proficient in a particular area and we got this money, that now by default, that means we understand this other area. We have to give it that same respect and become proficient at it before we start deploying capital.
Right.
So, yeah, I think the biggest mistake for people is that they just don't have the right information when they get started.
You can't throw money at everything.
No, sir.
It works sometimes.
Yeah.
But not in every situation.
Real estate is one of those places that it is a bottomless pit. You will run out of money before you run out of house. You know what I mean? That's for sure.
That's funny. Let's talk about, I know that you're big on wealth management and retirement. What do you think about Social Security? And where do you think retirement is going?
Didn't know I was getting pranked here today.
I think you're the best person to ask this question.
You know what? I'll put it this way. For one, my dad worked as a firefighter for 30 years for the city of Detroit. The year he retired, which was probably about 13 years ago,
Okay.
was the last year that he would have gotten his pension.
Really?
So just to think somebody that gave 30 years of their life and was banking on this thing to take care of them almost lost it.
Wow.
So, bro,
that's heartbreaking.
That's unbelievable to me.
Unbelievable.
And to think of how many people that did not make it in time and lost all of that, the equity they thought that they were building up, the sacrifice of missing out on family events and being away from your loved ones.
Wow.
And, like all of that. And at a moment's notice, somebody just told you that it's not available anymore. It's
pulled the rug right from under you.
Right from up under you, man. And so I'm super sensitive to that because I acknowledge where my parents and many others that I know, the environment that they come from, and this was their best chance at financial freedom or success.
Right.
On the other hand, I'm desensitized to it because I know that we still have a responsibility in life to ensure ourselves as much as possible and our financial future thereof.
For sure.
And so on one hand, you can blame a system. On another hand, you could just not participate in that system too.
Right.
Because at some point, many of us bought the notion that we have to go to work in order to provide for our families. No, we have to do some work.
That a pension was the best outcome, right? You work 20, 30 years, get your pension, and live your retirement.
100%.
That was sold to everybody.
100%. 100%. And it's unfortunate. It really is, man.
It really is.
It's heartbreaking to me, honestly. I just say that anybody today, while pension we know is out, but for those that still even banking on Social Security or even 401ks for that matter, it's a dangerous place to be in. It's a dangerous place to be in. I'm not saying not have those things, but I'm saying that if you putting your eggs in that basket, they soon to crack.
Talk to me about your portfolio and how you divide or spread your investments.
A lot of it is real estate. We've got some in slow growth vehicles. We've got the Roth IRAs and I actually like insurance a little bit better than even that.
Yeah.
I've got some pretty cool insurance products that I think in the next 15 years are going to do very well for us.
Like what? Like an annuity?
Yeah, so we got IULs, but I got another one called a premium finance. It's not very popular in the marketplace, but the acceleration on it is unbelievable. And it's still not volatile in the sense that you're protected on the downs.
Right.
It's just that the growth on the ups is unreal. And so it functions like an IUL, but it differs a little bit in some of its characteristics. But so I like insurance in that regard, and the way in which you can access it once you get creative with it as well.
Right.
But
the options available.
The options that are available, but and then we got some stuff in the stocks. My wife is more into the stocks than I am. She's got a brain and a mind for that. And so I let her kind of deal with that piece. But the bulk of it is real estate. I think it always will be.
Are you a crypto guy?
Not so much. I own some Bitcoin, but I'm
Yeah.
not. It's just one of those things where we have it. I don't monitor it a whole lot though.
Not to get too deep,
Okay.
but how do you manage your taxes? How do you think about it? How do you deal with it?
Yeah. So I meet with my CPA once a quarter. And in addition to that, anytime I'm buying a new asset, I always talk to him prior to buying it to make sure that we have alignment on the strategy of what needs to happen with that
Right.
property. I think it's very important that every business owner, entrepreneur, at some point, you got to get out of a space of having a tax practitioner. Forget about what you're saving in money,
Right.
right? Because a CPA is going to add money to your bottom line every single year.
A good one.
A good one. And my CPA happens to be also a tax attorney. And so
that helps.
you know,
Yeah.
I trust him. I know he's diligent. He's always going to bend but not break.
Right.
He's going to push it as far as he can for me
Right.
within the constructs of the law.
Right.
But he's going to be well versed in it as well. When you get a CPA who's ultra conservative and you're an entrepreneur, I don't think that's a good combination.
Okay.
They have to have some form of an entrepreneurial spirit themselves, in my opinion,
Got it.
because otherwise,
They're gonna fight you at every
fight
risk.
you at every
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Not if I'm wrong, explain it to me.
Right.
But the goal here should be to save me as much money as absolutely possible.
Right.
If we're not doing that, then we're not doing this.
I like it.
Yeah.
I can tell that you are really, really passionate about sharing your knowledge. And I think the one thing that I'm getting from this podcast from you is knowledge is power. And I can tell how knowledgeable you are on so many different aspects, which makes sense that you became a coach. Makes total sense. I can totally see how someone as knowledgeable as you would want to share that knowledge and help others with what you've done. What does coaching mean to you?
It's the most fulfilling thing I do. Like, if I had it my way, I would do nothing but coach. Particularly because when you invest, at some point, those things become transactions.
Right.
Right? I mean, regardless of how many tenants you have, at this point, I don't know any of them.
Right.
Right?
Over
So-
100.
yeah. And it's like, you know, neither do I desire to in that way,
Right.
right? And there's a reason for that, strategic again.
Right.
But at the very same time, I really like to see that I'm having an impact on the people. And the closest thing that I've ever been able to see that in my life has been through coaching. And it's the most fulfilling thing to watch somebody take your mistakes and failures and successes and bypass the mistakes and the failures in many ways and accelerate their growth. And watching them change their life is unbelievable, because I know what it did for me when I finally got it.
Right.
And I also know what it felt like to not have it. And I don't fight people to help them. That's my only rule. I ain't gonna fight you to help you.
Right.
But if you
gotta want it.
You gotta want it.
Yeah.
But if you want it, I'm gonna give it to you, and I'm gonna go to the deep ends with you to make sure it happens.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your students must be really successful and really happy to have you as a coach.
Most days. No, I'm Mr. Accountability, bro. Like, my wife would tell you. But starting with me.
Right.
But anybody else in my purview, like, it's accountability. I was just on a call with somebody before I came in here, and she was like, somebody wanted her to do a service for free. And I said, what you need to tell them is that the worst thing about free is you can't hold people accountable. You got to be careful when people want to do favors.
For sure.
Because
You gotta have some skin in the game.
You got to have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing me a favor, but you don't deliver, now it's kind of like I'm at your behest.
Right.
But if I pay you and we agree, oh, now I can hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I got no problem with paying people for that very reason.
Right.
Because I don't want to be...
Gives you leverage.
In my opinion.
Yes. 100%. What would you say is your superpower? I think you touched a little bit upon it, but I want to
Yeah.
go deeper.
Yeah, I would say wisdom and discernment, one, and secondly, the ability to execute. Both of those would be my superpower.
how did you, I can tell that you're very well-rounded. How did you take those skills and apply them to every portion of your life?
So scripture says that your gift will make room for you.
Mm,
So when I finally identified my
I
gifts,
like that.
and this is so important because when you're in the wrong environments, people will see your gift before you do.
and we're always blind to it.
This is why we need mirrors to see ourselves.
Yes.
So people see your gift long before you do. The problem is that they become intimidated by your gift, and so they tease your gift, they obscure your gift,
Try to
they
lower
denounce
you.
your gift.
Yes.
So it's important for you to be in the right environments to where they exude and lift up and encourage your gift. And once I started getting in the right environments, I became very clear what my gifts were. And I realized that everywhere I go, they follow me around. And I can make an impact in any environment I walk into based on leaning into my gifts.
Your energy.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's felt.
100%.
Yep.
We own a cigar company in Dominican Republic.
Nice.
And my partner was just telling me the other day, we were having a cigar, go figure. And he was telling me that he was like, man, when we went to the DR, because he had been prior to me going down with him in Santiago, and he's a 55-year-old conservative white male, right? And he was like, I learned a lot from watching you down there. He was like, it was so much that went over my head in terms of their posturing and different things that they were doing that he said that I picked up on. And I don't take credit for it. I just
Right.
also don't shy away from it either because
Right.
I understand it's just my gift.
Right.
Put me in any environment, whether they speak the same language or not, I'm just intuitive to pick up on what's really happening, the conversation that's really not being said.
Right.
And I thank God for it. It's kept me out of a lot of bad situations in my life, and it's put me in a lot of good ones as well.
It's amazing. It's also a very good partner to be 55 and still learning and still observing.
For sure. I only hang around people that's green and growing. Because if you ain't green and growing, you brown and dying.
And you are low vibrational.
You are low vibration.
Get the fuck away.
Yeah, man, please.
Speaking of low vibrational,
Great segue.
we have, I think, a young men crisis happening in America.
Okay.
You as a coach, how do you guide and navigate young men through their fears and anxiety?
Man, Leo, that's a heavy one, bro. It's it becomes more and more apparent daily of how bad that is. And I haven't quite put my finger on it completely. I have some thoughts behind it, particularly behind you 80s baby as well?
88.
Okay, I'm 83. So I think the men that we were around growing up are much different than the men that these young men are around growing up.
100%.
Right.
Even on TV and movies.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We had Arnold, Van Damme,
Yeah.
Stallone,
Yeah.
real men, you know,
Yeah,
real
100%.
bravado.
100%. 100%. And you were teased to be anything other than that.
Yes.
Right? And which now some would say we're bullying on this podcast, right? Just for saying that. But no, my whole thing for them is helping to encourage them to get clear about who they want to be at a young age. You know, when we grew up, it was a commonplace to blow your 20s and even part of your 30s.
Yep.
Getting lit, living life, right? Because most of us either work some dead-end job or career. So your enjoyment was to go out and spend
Right.
money and buy things and experience, go travel.
Yep.
Whereas now, because of the information age that we're in, and even my daughter being soon to be 22, I tell her the same thing. Like
22.
you got to get clear now.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait until you're 35 to finally
No,
hit it
you
big.
don't.
Like you need to get clear now. So I encourage a lot of these men who are open to it that if they don't have a relationship with God, start there. Because I'm gonna tell you, nothing has moved a needle more in my life than spending time in prayer. Prayer is just a vehicle to get alignment with God. So having real conversation with him about, I don't know why I'm here. Like, let's just be honest. I don't know why I'm here. And you put me here. So let's talk about it. Like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life?
Right.
Like, give me a step. Give me a sign. Give me a direction.
What do you want from me?
What do you want from me, right? Scripture says that when you ask God for wisdom, he gives it freely without finding guilt. So ask him for wisdom, like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And I think part of the reason that most young men especially can't discipline themselves is because they don't know where the hell they're going. It's hard to resist and to constrain yourself from having the things that your flesh desires that really aren't good for you in that season.
Right.
But why would you tell yourself no if you don't know what you're telling yourself yes to?
That's deep.
So for many of them, if they could just get clear about what they want out of life, then it's easier to say no to, I'm not going to party with you today. No, I'm not about to smoke this weed because it's a distraction.
Right.
No, I'm not about to keep dealing with this toxic chick because she no good for me. No, I'm like, you could start cutting these things out of your life sooner if you get clear about where you want to go. But if you don't, then you just kind of going with the flow like everybody else, which means you're susceptible to all the other distractions that come along with that.
That's great. Clarity is so important.
Critical.
Because most people live in a fog. And they're going through this haze.
For decades, Leo.
Yes.
Decades.
They're the same person 10 years ago. I'm sorry, same person today that they were 10 years ago.
Yes.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yes.
I would also add to that having self-love.
That's a big one. That's a big one, bro.
Yes.
I think about, so I've got this community now called Believers in Business. And it's to help people get stronger in their faith, their fitness, their finance, and their freedom.
That's awesome.
And
you should be a warrior.
Bro, I love it, man. I love it. And one of the things that I realized about my life, because I only teach about things that I've actually been through.
Right.
I just believe in that. That doesn't mean that I don't have intellectual thought that I may read and share.
Right.
But the premise behind everything that I teach is because I've actually had trials in that area, been able to overcome.
No, it makes sense.
Right. So
I think to lead, you have to live by it.
Yes, sir. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Or it's chinks in your armor, and they eventually will be exposed.
100%.
Right. And so to the freedom piece, freedom from strongholds, bondage, toxicity, weed, alcohol, anything that doesn't serve you for your higher self are the things that I'm helping people get free from. And I can relate to what you just said because I think about it at a very long time in my 20s. I didn't love myself, bro. I gained weight. I was drinking and eating and smoking and drugging. And I just didn't love myself.
Yeah.
And all of that was ancillary ways to self-medicate, and I didn't see it that way at that time because all my peers were doing the same thing, so it just seemed normal. But the truth is, I just didn't love myself, man. And it's amazing how when you do establish that self-love, that you care too much to do certain things to yourself at that point.
Right, and you choose that clarity.
Yes, sir.
I think being all fogged up makes you push it all down.
All fogged up. I like that.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, being all fogged up. That's great.
Yeah.
I was looking at your reels and I saw something that I really liked. I saw that you have the 7 golden rules of productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they work great for teaching discipline and consistency. Talk about that a little bit, and how did you come up with these 7 principles?
I don't even remember. What were they?
That's how good you are.
Listen. So, the full disclosure. So I brain dump every single day. And so I've got a shared note with the lady who runs my social media for me.
Yep.
And I get these thoughts and I just put them into the shared note.
I love that.
And then she just pulls them out and curates different pieces of content and such.
You should go back and look at this one because you should definitely use it.
I remember seeing it. I just don't remember.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really great.
But some of them are, I'm a big Darren Hardy guy, right? The compound effect.
Yep.
And he talks a lot about how we're so distracted, right? So when we're talking about productivity, we're so distracted.
So many fucking shiny things everywhere.
Oh my God, right?
Yeah.
And we don't realize that if we just went into a room and locked ourselves in for 30 minutes, don't even take the phone in there, use the bathroom before you go in.
Yep.
Take one thing to focus on and only do that for 30 minutes. You will look up 7 minutes into it because of our attention span being as short as it is now. And you'll think you've been in there for the whole 30 minutes already and you're 7 minutes in.
Isn't that crazy?
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the biggest proponent is eliminating distractions and getting focused, because the other part is even distractions look like opportunities.
Yes.
So back to clarity. If you don't have clarity, distractions will look like opportunities. And I got a buddy who is constantly chasing. I'm exhausted every time we talk. I love him to death. He like my little brother. But I tell him, like, bro, you got to focus, man. I know that sounds good, and I know it worked for them. But did they tell you about the 15 years that they did it before it worked?
Right.
Like, we got to stop observing people's today and think that we can just go do what they did and run the play, as they would say.
And being envious of it. They put in the work.
Yeah, man.
They've been at it for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Go do the same. Go put in the work. Pick one thing.
One thing.
Go put in the work.
One thing. One thing. Yeah. And I'm a big routine guy as well. I think how you set your day, and I think that was a part of the 7. How you set your day up.
Yes, it was.
How you set your day up is very critical. You know, and Atomic Habits, if people haven't read it, I think it's an amazing book.
I've actually met him. He's a great guy.
Did you really?
Yes.
That's really cool.
I met him at a John Maxwell conference.
Okay.
He was a speaker.
Wow.
And I got to go backstage and meet him. It was really cool.
Was he kind of how he is in the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is.
He seemed like he's just one way all the time.
This is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I like it. That book, man, I mean, you talk about clarity.
Yes.
That book will give you some clarity.
Oh, yes,
it will pick up on all of these. You know, what I like about the book most is that society, I think we sensationalize over things like being a perfectionist.
Yes.
Or I'm analytical. Right? We put all these titles on ourselves that don't serve us.
Mm-hmm.
Because truthfully, a perfectionist is really just
and
a sexy procrastinator.
Right.
Right? Perfectionist is a sexy procrastinator. You getting ready to get ready. You're never going to figure it out until you actually do the
hysterical.
thing. Right?
You could put lipstick on a pig.
But it's still going to oink, oink. You know what I mean? It's still going to oink, oink. So, you know, when you look at people who are over analytical, that sounds sophisticated.
Yes.
But that just means that it's an intelligent form of being indecisive. You intelligently still obsess over both outcomes and pick neither.
Right.
And I think that book, Atomic Habits, demyths and debunks all of this societal construct that we have adopted as being okay. And it's like, no, at the core of it, you suck in this area of your life.
Yeah.
And you need to start doing these things habitually to pull you out of that thing that you've been doing that hasn't been helping you.
I think what these people lack to understand is that it's better for you to pick something and be wrong than to pick nothing at all.
Yes, sir.
Because at least you're in motion.
Yes, sir.
You're learning, you're zigging, you're zagging, you're figuring it out.
Yes, sir.
You know?
You're 100% correct.
And it's so hard for people to understand that because I don't want to make the wrong choice. I don't want to fail. I don't want to lose money. Fuck all that. Pick one. You know, trust yourself. If you lose money, you lose money.
Right.
But learn from the experience so you don't do it again.
You know why people scared to lose money? Because they believe that time is money. That's another untruth that we've adopted.
Yes.
Time isn't money. As a matter of fact, time is infinitely more valuable than money.
Oh, yes.
I done lost tons of money and made tons of money. But that time I lost in my 20s, I ain't got that back.
Never getting that back.
Right? So if we can identify that time is infinitely more valuable than money,
yes,
we would probably stop trading our most precious asset for so little money.
And stop overthinking so much and just execute.
Execute.
Are you living your dream life, or is there anything else that you have to accomplish that you want to accomplish before you can say that to yourself?
I would have had a different answer about 6 weeks ago to this.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised at what I'm about to say. I'm probably experiencing the most gratitude that I've ever had in my life. And not because of anything external that's happening. It's because of an inner peace and an inner joy and an inner hope that I'm finding to where I understand I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm grateful for that. You know what I mean? I'm just, every day I wake up and I'm just these minor things that I would blow by on a daily basis.
Right.
I find them now and they're apparent to me and I'm like, yeah, this life is pretty dope.
You're grounded.
100%. And it gives you power when your peace and your joy is detached from outcomes. Because we don't control the outcomes. We control the inputs.
Right. No expectations.
That's right.
That's
right.
powerful.
Yeah.
To be that okay with life.
Yeah. 6 weeks ago, I was a mess. This was just, I'm telling you, in real time, this was like a revelation that I had where God spoke to me, and it was the biggest revelation I've had in 40 years of my life.
Wow.
And life has been different for the last 6 weeks.
Amen.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and change one thing about your entrepreneurial journey, what would it be?
Go slower at times. Not let the pressure of feeling as if you're behind all the time speed you up through processes that you should have took more time with.
Do you think that's because you were comparing yourself to others?
I think that's played into some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that did. I think not from a, since they have it, I'm supposed to.
Right.
But from a, if that's my peer, then I got to kind of look at my situation and say, it's like if you were playing basketball, right? Everybody on the team, you sizing each other up to make sure that you're keeping up because you're all on the team together, right? So I think more from that perspective. But going back to something you just said a minute ago that was profound, which was, what about the 15 years though? Right?
Yep.
And that's the part that I didn't consider.
Right.
In some cases, right? And then too, the executor in me, I find something that's working. I'm like, I'm about to go do a lot more of that, right? And sometimes that happens to where by the time I've done so much of it, the problems didn't expose themselves until after so much had been done. And then the same way that the success extrapolates, the problems also extrapolate with it. So that's what I would say. I would just go back and understand that I got a ton of time. Certain guys like us, we don't need to be reminded of urgency. That's never our problem.
Right.
So
it's
giving myself slowing down. So giving myself grace to know, no, you straight. Like just build the foundation, make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to.
Right.
And then go do more instead of doing more in excess.
Right. And I would also add to that, like, that helps you enjoy what you've created.
That's 100% true, Leo.
Right?
100%.
Because we just keep building, executing, building, and we forget to enjoy. Look at what we've done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Look at all the knowledge that we've infused into others. Look at all the creation that we've put into the world. You know?
That's good, man. It's real good. In Genesis, God created the heavens and the earth and everything in it in 6 days, and he himself said, this is good.
Yeah.
And took the 7th day off.
Let me appreciate this.
Let me appreciate this,
Let me
right?
enjoy this
When you said that, I saw the picture. I was like, make a lot of sense, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I was asked this the other day. I have no idea. I really don't. Like, here's what I figured out. When you really start to submit your life to God in the way in which we talked about a little while ago.
Yep.
What I figured out is something amazing is already prepared for me. He's preparing me for it. So the biggest thing and the biggest challenge in life for me at this point is becoming the person that's ready to do the thing when that time gets there. So every day, the way I'm measuring whether or not I was successful is not necessarily of what I accomplished or how much money I made.
Right.
It's about, did I learn something new? Did I stay in my discipline? And did I get better? Because I know that right now, if I'm not there yet, then the only reason why I'm not there is because there's things that I need to do before I get there.
Man, that's deep. I love your level of wisdom and your level of confidence within yourself. I feel like you have been able to detach yourself from the bullshit labels that we put of what success is. And I can see that you understand that true success is working from within and building from within. When did that click for you? Was it the drinking? Was it?
I think that was the start of it.
Yeah.
But even then, I had a while here. I still made some bad decisions. We were building a house right before COVID started. Our third house at that point we had built, and I was so I can't say that exclusively, but I will say this: at that point is when I would say that my Wi-Fi signal wasn't as interrupted.
It's probably the first domino drop.
It was the first domino drop, and then 2020, I went through a purging during that time where a lot of people that were close to me in a certain season that I thought would be there forever, or at least for the foreseeable future,
Right.
God started getting them away from me, and he got me isolated. And then that's when it really started to occur. And but I would say it's probably been the last year now that I've really understood what's important and what's not. And it's not that I'm not aspirational. I mean, me and my wife just got back from Paris.
Sure.
Like, I love to travel. I love nice things.
Right.
But I also love where I'm at too, which are also nice. That they may not be the pinnacle of the things that I want or desire,
Right.
but
It's important to you.
yeah. And it's interesting how the things that you thought you wanted 3-5 years ago just aren't that important now either, you know.
Yeah.
And when you can really start to break down all these social constructs of what you're supposed to have and what you're not, bro, like every day I get up, the thing that I find the most joy from is making an impact on other people. And I know that sounds cliche, but I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
people, whether it be in a traditional sense.
No, I can tell.
Like, yeah, whether it's in a traditional sense of like mentee, mentor,
Right.
or legitimately if it's just, I got great people in my sphere of influence, man. I mean, I'm talking about like great people that are winners in the marketplace, but winners in the kingdom as well.
Right.
People that you can be honest and vulnerable with, that can pray for you and help you in your down times, and vice versa. We reciprocate that with
Yep.
each other. And, bro, simple life with good people is an amazing thing, man.
Amazing.
It really is.
is.
Like, I don't need to be around all the pretentious stuff. I just don't.
Low energy. Once again.
Very low energy.
Yeah.
But in their mind, it's high energy. That's
Yeah.
what's so crazy about it to me.
Yeah, no. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem. To your point, one of my mentors, he wanted to buy his own plane. Okay? That was his thing,
Okay.
right? He finally made enough money to buy the plane, and he didn't want it anymore.
Yeah. Somebody told me a while ago, I think it was one of my mentors actually, and he said, if it's something you want to buy, sleep on it for 24 to 72 hours and see if you still want it.
Yes.
And I've been practicing that, man. And believe it or not,
It really works.
90% of the time, it's kind of like, no, I don't need that no more.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
So how
It's
much
impulse buy.
You took the words right out of my mouth, man. I mean, to think that most of the things in which we purchase are probably impulse purchases.
Right.
You know, and yeah, I think that's a good habit because it's not going anywhere,
Right.
you know? And when you also figure out that money isn't the thing, what you do with the money either adds the value or subtracts the value from it.
It's a tool.
It's a tool,
Yeah.
you know? And I just don't let it rule my life. We all need it. I'm happier with it, certainly.
For sure.
But I also understand that it's not everything, because the skill that I have, I know undoubtedly I'll always make money.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the part that people miss. They're so transactional focused, and they're so focused on what they want to have, they don't take the time to become the person. When you become the person, you never worry about having, because you know that you're always becoming, and you can always do whatever to then end up having the stuff.
Facts. Dropping bombs.
Just
That's
saying.
where the fear comes in.
That is where the fear comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't have confidence in their skill to be able to duplicate it or to redo it.
Absolutely.
And they think, oh my God, I just built this. I'm going to lose everything and I'll have nothing.
Absolutely.
No, you're going to lose it and you're going to rebuild it.
That's right. And rebuild it better, hopefully.
Yes.
Right? 100%, man. You that right there, like, that's a big takeaway for people. Focus on becoming the person to get the skill to then do the things to have the stuff. Stop focusing on having. And
Right.
one of my mentors says, Myron says that we need to grow gravitropically just as deep as we grow phototropically. So a tree grows in two directions at
For
the same time.
sure.
And the problem for most people, they're so focused on the clout in the phototropic moment that the roots aren't deep enough that when the wind gust blows in,
Timber.
it knocks it right over.
Yes.
So for me, I figured out.
I'm gonna use that. I like
bro,
that.
that's major.
That's
That's major. You know, one of the biggest things that I've been able to do for myself over the last 18 months is focus on growing gravitropic. But you know what gravitropic is? It's dark, it's dirty, it's muddy, it's where all the roots are.
Yes.
Nobody wants to talk about the gravitropic work, but that's how you have a phototropic moment that's sustainable. This is why everybody's so fly-by-night on social media now.
Right.
Because they're just so focused on trying to shine instead of doing the dirty work behind the scenes.
It's your pit. People want to hide their pit.
Yes, sir.
Not understanding you got to connect with it, be one with it,
Yeah.
and choose to be in the middle.
Yeah.
Not because you're scared of both sides of the
Correct.
spectrum.
Correct.
You know, be one with both sides and choose to live in the middle.
That's right. That's right. That's good stuff, bro.
Thank you, man. Good stuff. You've been dropping bombs. I need to get a bomb button, like a Brad Lee.
I know what to get you for Christmas, man.
Brian, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah.
Your IG, your website, your
for sure.
YouTube, TikTok, whatever you got.
For sure. So, you mind if I give them something for free?
Do what you got to do.
Okay.
Please,
so
I would love that. Thank you.
You guys can find me at Brian Adamson Official on Instagram, YouTube, everywhere else. Also, I want to gift you guys, okay, from subscribing to this podcast, a free copy of my ebook, okay? You go to iflipebook.com and get your free copy of my ebook to show you how to go out and invest in real estate remotely, how to stay away from all the pitfalls.
If you have been listening to this podcast, you're going to run and get that ebook because Brian dropped so much knowledge. I can only imagine what that ebook is going to do for you. So if you're someone that you're in real estate and you're trying to start off your career, follow Brian, get his ebook, go do his coaching, and you're going to see the results that you're going to get. Brian, it's been a pleasure.
Bro, my pleasure. Man.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, this was way, like, people don't know. These things just kind of happen.
Yes.
You never know what the magic is going to be like.
Right.
Today was magic, bro.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah,
It's because of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, hit that like button, hit that bell notification, and we'll see you guys next time.
This is the Leo Climaco Podcast.